I've got 18 years of experience in the gym, and I'm gonna condense that down into this video as fast as humanly possible to show you all the tips and tricks that I wish I had known since day one. For the record, I've also worked with over 500 athletes. I've founded Vegan Squad coaching community so that we can help you too. So if you want details to enter that, check it out below. But first, let me show you literally everything I know. So one thing that I've learned is on lat pull downs, I feel the connection in my lats significantly more if I take my thumbs and put them over the top of the bar. What this will allow you to do is to focus more on driving down and pulling down with your elbows and flexing your lats. And it might allow you to take a little bit of the thought process out of the grip and remove your biceps from the movement. All right, so next is when we are training quads. Are we moving our knees or are we moving our hips? If you're training your quads, you want to be moving your knees. So I'm going to demonstrate on this machine. When you begin the movement here, watch how I'm not sticking my butt back. I'm instead driving my knees forward. So if I'm trying to get quad emphasis, knees are going to come forward and initiate the movement. Now conversely, if you were trying to train a little bit more of your glutes, you would want the movement to look like your knees are roughly staying in place and it's your butt that's pushing back. Notice how at the bottom of this, my butt is really far back, almost like I'm sitting on a toilet, and my knees are kind of directly above my heels. That's gonna put more on glutes. Versus again, one more time, if we're on this side, I'm gonna drive my knees forward to begin the movement. Now you could stay facing this way, move your feet back, and push your butt back. And again, much more hamstrings and glutes. So what moves the movement at the beginning is going to determine which muscle group you're working. All right, next is calf training. So I have two forms of calf training that I do. Relatively straight leg or standing, and then more of a bent leg. And so when you're training more of this straight leg for calves, if you don't have a machine for it at your gym, hop on a leg press. What we want to focus on here is getting a nice deep stretch and then a nice contraction at the top. And you want to have a solid, slow tempo. Don't be bouncing around like a rabbit. So we want to come down slow, get a stretch, drive back up. What we also don't want to see is a lot of quad movement. Now, if you can only do one, if you only have time for one, I recommend the straight leg or the standing variation. It trains the gastrocnemius, the much larger muscle on here. When you're on a seated calf machine, so obviously not here, but with your legs bent, it trains more of this soleus muscle when you're doing more of this motion. So just a couple things to consider for your calf training. If you could only pick one, I recommend this. Biggest thing here, make sure you're getting a deep stretch at the bottom. All right, so when you're doing cardio, you could just hit the quick start button. That's fine if you just want to do some cardio and you aren't really trying to track it. But if you want to track how many calories you're burning and to track it accurately, I recommend hitting the manual button. Usually hit OK. You might have to hit the option button or something like that, and then it'll allow you to plug in your body weight. So I'm a healthy 264 this morning, hit enter, age 33 years young. And then once you have those accepted in there, this calorie count that's coming out will be significantly more accurate. And I'll give you two tips in one. If you're trying to burn the most calories, I'd put the speed up to something like 3 to maybe 3.5 miles per hour, and then put this incline as high as you can manage. So for me, that might be like 5.5, but whatever you do, don't hang on here like this, grabbing with your arms. You want to leave your hands off. Having that kind of mix of speed with that incline will burn a lot more calories a lot faster. And for you to be accurate, you do want to plug in your actual body weight here. What are those? So next thing would be footwear. That's something I wish I learned early on. I just had like running shoes. That was all I would come to the gym in. Now, if you're doing it strictly an upper body day and you're not bracing on the ground for anything, you can get by with running shoes. But for most people, I recommend something like Converse or Vans. They're going to be flatter. They're going to allow you to have a closer connection with the ground. And these very flat shoes, they don't have a lot of give like a running shoe. And unfortunately, when you're doing a big pressing movement with your feet, if you have a running shoe, your knees are going to be more likely to cave in, and we don't want that. So I pretty much exclusively train in $30 to $50 Converse shoes. You can get them custom painted like mine, but really you just want something flat. If you're super safe and not going to drop any weights on your feet, you could probably go barefoot or with socks, but I personally prefer these shoes. All right, so you guys want to get those giant cannonball delts. Side raises are the way to go. We already know that, but the trick about side raises, I like to pretty much just about lock out my arm, and then what I'm looking for as a coach, especially with my clients, at the top, I don't want to see this thumbs up Now that's a thumbs down. We don't like the thumbs up. When you do the thumbs up, you incorporate a lot of your front delt here, but we're trying to hit this smaller delt, the side delt. You can go lighter, maybe not 5 pounds, depends on what you're ready for. But what I look for is when you come up, this slight twist, almost like a thumbs down, or I think pinky's up. If you drive with your pinky up, you're gonna get a lot more of that side delt. So it's gonna look like this on the side. Doesn't have to be extreme, but definitely watch yourself. If you're towards the end of the set and your pinky is going down and your thumb is coming up, we're using a lot more front delts. We want it to look more like this. All right, so when doing like a big pressing movement, like a leg press or a hack squat, something I wish I had known from early on was to take my hips, my knees, and my toes and have them move in alignment. So for example, on this machine, if my feet naturally feel good like this, I wanna make sure my hips, my knees, and my toes all kind of press in the same direction. So notice how they're staying in alignment here. What you'll sometimes see people do is they might come out like a little bit wider like that and their toes would still be straight. And now their knees are kind of caving in. The hips and the toes are out, but the knees are in. If you're one of those people that's doing this, there's a couple ways you can fix it. You can focus on flexing with your glutes, or in this case, I'd probably bring my footing in a little bit more since my knees are already wanting to come to the inside, and then press back up like that. There's a couple other things you could do. Try pointing your toes out, see if that feels comfortable. Still driving mostly through the heels. And now since the toes are out, you'll actually want to allow your knees to point out to the side. Oh, look, there's a little vein there. So basically either way, just want to make sure the hips, the knees, and the toes are all traveling together. And the biggest problem that most people have here is the knees caving in. Part 2, when doing a big compound lift, such as a leg press, a hack squat, a squat, a deadlift, a bench press, literally just about anything, we're going to want to focus on bracing our core. I like to think of myself as this giant spring, and as I'm coming towards the bottom of the movement, that spring is getting tighter and tighter and tighter so that it can explode back up. So what this might look like throughout a set is at the top of the movement, take a nice big deep breath, brace in your core, come down, drive back up. And you can start to breathe out on the way up, but depending upon how heavy it is, you might want to get halfway to 2/3 of the way out of the hole before breathing out. So that might look like this. Something along those lines, because if you can keep this tight, then your legs can work. If this gets loose, if you breathe out at the bottom, if you laugh or you're talking while you're training, this doesn't have anything to push against. So make sure you keep your core tight while you're training. So a lot of people do their tricep overhead extensions on a cable with something like a setup like this. They'll be here and they'll be pressing out like this. But what I learned recently, like within the last year, was if you can actually drop this cable height down to about roughly shoulder height or so, and there's a full video of this on my channel, but this will allow you to have a much better strength curve throughout this whole range of motion, and you'll get a really good stretch at the bottom and a really good contraction at the top. It just, in my eyes, it smooths out the movement and makes it a much better overall feeling. So if you haven't tried that before, highly, highly, highly recommend it. We're gonna show you how to do adductors, or at least get set up. I feel like this is a useful tip for a lot of people. So if we're gonna be training our adductors, bringing our legs to the inside, training our inner thigh, what I will do is I'll first warm up with light weight. And when it's time to do the working set, I can't like sit here and just force this all the way out. But what I can do is if I stand up, push my butt back into the pad, I can then get it as wide as I need it to be. And then I will take my hands, kind of secure myself and make sure I'm holding on here nice and tight, and then press in to be able to do the movement. I kind of keep my hands close by just in case anything happens, anything doesn't feel great, I got them ready to go. And at the end of the set, once you're tired and you can't do anymore, you can actually use your hands to come in, and then usually take them off and go slow on the negatives. Now, this is gonna be a 2-for-1. What about your abductors, your glutes here? So that, to get set up, you'll typically have your machine like this, come in as close as you can, fall off of it, something like that. But for most people, they run out of room for the range of motion in the middle. There's just not enough tension to really get a stretch here. So you can grab yoga blocks at this gym, grab these blue pads, and you can slide these in here to give yourself a little bit more of a stretch at the bottom of this movement. It basically just creates more room for you to train in. I can actually pretty much go as far as my legs hitting me. each other here and just get a little bit more out of this exercise. So it depends on the machine. This one's actually pretty solid, but there's some gyms where the machine would basically stop here and these pads will allow you to get a little bit more range of motion. As my videographer Alex so kindly pointed out, you can be a little bit crazy and stick your hands in here instead. It works. It's not as comfortable as the blocks. It's just a last resort. All right, leg extensions. Now, what I typically recommend for most people, this seat can usually be pushed significantly further back, and I'll get to that in just a moment. Next, we want to check the settings here. And what a lot of people will do is they'll walk up to the machine, it'll already be set like this. We want to get this foot pad pushed as far back as humanly possible so that we can get a stretch at the bottom of the movement. So by pushing the foot pad back and by giving ourselves a lot of room to lean back, we can now get a deeper stretch in our quads here. So this will allow significantly more range of motion. If this was 2 inches forward and the seat was 2 inches forward, I'm getting less stretch and less work done in my quads. The next thing you want to do, you don't want to be sitting here feeling your legs. I know it's cool to feel the muscles working, but you want to lock in and grab and drive as tight as possible into the machine. And once you become more of an advanced lifter like myself, you want to use actually a seat belt on here. Look at that, it just comes flying at you. So you can take one of these seat belts. I got mine from a company called Gym Pin. I have a full video on my channel as well to show this, but basically this seat belt will come around if you can get enough slack in it. And it will do a significantly better job than your hands alone can do at locking you in here so that your quads can do more work. You will feel the difference. It's pretty incredible. You can also use it for things like leg curls to lock you in there as well. Big upgrade if you got a little bit of money to spend. So the next thing is, I recommend this for literally any machine that you use. I guess it would make sense for Smith machines and free weights as well. I call it the pancake test. Now, I might be hungry, so maybe that's why I'm thinking of pancakes. But basically, you want to make sure that in any machine, God forbid, something horrible happens. Let's say you tear your knee or something, or you tear your quad, or whatever happens. You pass out. That's a good example. You pass out like, oh no, let me fall asleep. What happens? Oh, at least in this machine, I know that I can fall asleep while training, and I'm still going to be safe here. I'm not squished. There are definitely some leg press machines, especially like the squat press machines, where if you were to fall asleep while training, a lot of people, myself included, would get absolutely squished like a pancake and probably get really injured. So I recommend this for these Smith machines as well. Imagine if you fall asleep while you're Smith machine squatting. If you don't have those safety bars set up, you might actually pancake yourself in real life, and nobody wants that. Next, we're going to talk about our elbows and how these things work. They're pretty cool. So when you're training your chest, a lot of people don't think of it this way. They think that they need to push out real far or something like that. But what I want you to realize is if I came into the gym and I cut you off right at the elbow, just cut all this off, you can still train your chest. What our chest does is it takes our elbow from here and it drags it across. Takes it from here, drags it across. That's all our chest does. So when we're bench pressing, if you look at my elbow, now I'm not using the straight arm for this example, but watch where the elbow goes. The elbow is driven straight across. Now you'll see a lot of people when they bench press, they bench to here, and then they punch forward like they're a boxer, but that doesn't really do anything for your chest. Your chest is meant to just take your elbow and bring it across. So maybe that's a way that you can think about how you're going to connect with your chest. When I'm bench pressing, I usually think, let me take my elbows from the outside and bring them in. That is how the bench press is done. Conversely, same thing for our back. What our back does is our back takes our elbow from here, brings it down to here. Takes our elbow from here, brings it to here. Takes our elbow from here, brings it down to here. That's how our backs work. So you can also think about where in my back am I targeting with my elbow. If we're pulling really high, it's going to work a higher portion of your lats up here. Now, if you're pulling really low, like especially like a low row, something like this, where your hand and your elbow are ending up low, works your lower lats. So that's how you can think about where am I moving my elbow, and that will do is tell you what you're training. Everybody wants bigger biceps. I don't care who you are. You could be a 90-year-old grandma and you still want bigger biceps. Now, what we want to think about with biceps is what are we trying to target? Which muscle group are we intending to hit? Now, if you're trying to do like a front double bicep and train what's called the inner head, we actually want to go a little bit wider. So something like this. Notice how my hands are coming out a little bit wider than my elbows. That's going to focus more on the inner head here. Now, but if you tell me, hey, I want to do a back double bicep, I want to show this side off, I want those peaks, I want to hit that outer bicep a little bit, well, then what we want to do for that is bring our grip in probably a little bit closer. When we come in with a closer grip, it trains more of that outer head. So you can think about that when you're programming or when you're training. Where do you need more of? Do you need more of this inner head for a front double, or do you need more of the outer head for a back double? Just a couple things you can keep in mind. Simple, changing your grip to hit a different part of your bicep. Cameraman Alex gave some great tips here as well. A lot of people, when they train biceps, they're also training shoulders and lower back. What we want to see is something like this. Elbows locked into place, big squeeze right up to here. But what we usually see a lot of in the gym is we'll first thrust forward at the hips, and then we'll swing up like this. Now, if you notice the angle, my hands are directly above my elbows. I'm getting a lot of shoulder action here. I'm not really training my biceps all that much. So especially if there's a cable pulling this out, what we want to do, at least what I recommend, is keeping your elbows locked in at your sides, squeezing your biceps until they can't come up any higher. For me, that's about like this. Now, if my elbows are shooted forward and my hands come way up, not really getting more done for my biceps. Now I'm starting to engage shoulders and other things like that. So I recommend something like this, not this. All right, last thing. I love using cables to train rear delts. Normally set it up roughly shoulder height or just slightly below. And for me, I like to take the handle off. I don't need the attachment. You just want to make sure you don't slam your hand into here when you're done. I usually take the carabiner, use it to pull out, and then grab here. I'll kind of grab somewhere on the cable with the bottom of my hand resting here. I feel that gives me a really solid grip here, and then I can drive out, especially like when I'm training rear delts, just like that. But again, be careful. You don't want to slam your hand in here. So you just got to keep your wits about you while you're doing this. So just like that, allows you to get a little bit better feeling in my eyes for your rear delts, and then just carefully put it back in. That's what she said. All right, everybody. So that was like literally over half my life in the gym, learning all these tips and tricks. I think they were like 17 or 18, something like that. So if one of these resonated with you, I would absolutely love to know it if you drop it in the comments below. And if you want to join our online community of almost 200 members at the time of recording this, I would absolutely love to have you there. We're here to help elevate people on their mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional journeys. The code to join for only $25 for 6 weeks is EAT Vegan. Go ahead, drop that in on the link below, and we'll see you in school.